Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Eugene City Council public hearing for January 19th. We have two items on the agenda this evening. The first one is a public hearing and ordinance providing for withdrawal of annexed properties. City Manager, you want to give a brief explanation of that one?
I will, Mayor. Thank you. This public hearing is for an ordinance that withdraws properties that have been annexed to the city from special service districts such as water districts and rural fire districts. This item comes to the City Council each January, and this year there are 11 properties to be withdrawn from 3 service districts. Timing for adoption of the ordinance is critical. State statutes provide that any properties to be withdrawn must be withdrawn by March 31st. Otherwise, those properties will remain on the tax rolls of special service districts, even though the city is already providing services. Tonight is a public hearing for this item, and council action is scheduled for February 8th.
Thank you, City Manager. I'm going to open the hearing, and then I'm going to ask if there's anybody signed up for this one. No, so I'm going to close it. I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions that they want to ask. Okay, I don't see any, so we'll go on to the second public hearing item, and that is an ordinance prohibiting smoking outside city-owned buildings. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this proposed change is to provide a healthier atmosphere and better protection for children who are using city services by prohibiting smoking outside of city-owned buildings, providing services to children such as libraries, pools, sports parks, and community centers. The proposed ordinance extending the prohibition to the curb outside of affected buildings is anticipated to be easier to communicate to the public and thus take fewer resources to enforce.
Thank you. And I'm going to open that public hearing. Do we have comments? Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you.
It's powerful.
Yes. Okay. We have one person signed up to speak tonight. The person who's wanting to speak has submitted a request to speak form prior to the public hearing. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. You'll have 3 minutes to comment. There are lights on the podium. The yellow light indicates you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. And the person who's come tonight to speak is Stephanie Young-Peterson. Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Young-Peterson. I work for the Lane County Public Health Department. I do live in the city of Eugene, but I actually live outside of the urban growth boundary at 3117 Fox Hollow Road. I'm here to speak to you tonight about the proposed ordinance that you were just briefly discussing. The focus of my testimony tonight will be on the latest research regarding secondhand smoke exposure and trends for limiting this exposure in outdoor environments. Public awareness of the adverse health effects of secondhand smoke exposure has grown over the years, as has the political will to do something about this exposure. Thanks in part to the early leadership by this board as well as the Corvallis City Council, we now have a really strong state-wide smoke-free workplace law. I just wanted to, again, say thank you to those of you who were here and involved in that decision. But tonight I wanted to talk a little bit more to you about the new research on secondhand smoke exposure, and that is exposure in outdoor environments. This is an issue that is yet to be dealt with by most state or local governments. Outdoor ETS exposure is often mistaken to be safe or of no real public health concern. Until recently, very little was known about this type of exposure, and then in May of 2007, researchers at Stanford University released the results of one of the first in-depth studies to take a look at this issue. The study was published in the Journal of the Air and Waste Management Association and concluded that a non-smoker sitting a few feet downwind from a smoldering cigarette is likely to be exposed to substantial levels of contaminated air. The study utilized portable electronic air monitoring systems to make precise measurements of a toxic airborne contaminant known as PM2.5. PM2.5 is produced by cigarettes, wood-burning stoves, diesel engines, and other forms of combustion, and according to the EPA can lead to serious health problems including asthma attacks, chronic bronchitis, irregular heartbeat, and non-fatal heart attacks. In their report, the Stanford researchers concluded that outdoor tobacco smoke exposure consists of these brief plumes of smoke that sometimes exceed 1,000 micrograms of PM 2.5. On the other hand, clean air typically contains less than 20 micrograms of PM 2.5, so that's a pretty significant brief exposure. The researchers also noted that although some outdoor ETS exposure may be considered to be brief and of little concern to an average healthy individual, in 2006, the U.S. Surgeon General concluded that there really is no safe threshold of exposure to environmental tobacco smoke. I should also quickly mention that secondhand smoke exposure can be even more problematic for young children who don't yet have well-developed immune systems and have smaller breathing passages. Emerging evidence around the dangers of what is known as third-hand smoke exposure, showed that even toxins coming off of people's clothes is dangerous enough that infants shouldn't be held by people who are smoking. And my time's up.
It is.
There are lots of cities in Oregon that have already done similar ordinance. So I wanted to encourage city staff and counselors to contact Corvallis. Hillsborough just passed an ordinance, Independence. So there are other places that you can look to for examples.
Thank you, and thank you for your work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to close the public hearing and ask counselors if they have comments to make. I just wanted to add something myself. We have received some other email that where people wish we were even doing something broader than is being done. For my part, I think I just want to recognize for the public that not only is this going to be safer, but it does create a more livable space, so to speak, in front of our library, and so it accomplishes several things at the same time. All right, with that, Councilor Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to ask the city manager if he could just kind of briefly go over the annexations into the city. Were these ones that, who requested them, and for what reasons are they being annexed?
Ortiz is this
That's the other ordinance.
in reference to the
That's the
previous?
prior ordinance. I don't think we were given an opportunity.
Yes,
to
you
ask.
were.
Oh,
Yeah.
was I reading it and not paying attention? I apologize. So, I mean, I'd ask my question.
And unfortunately, the staff that was here
they just left. Okay, no problem.
We'd be happy to circle back with you,
No,
though.
I
We'll
was
ask
just
them to do
trying
that.
to, for the benefit of our viewers, to have a conversation around annexations and how they are usually the property owners that request the annexation, that the city does not purposefully annex properties into our area unless it's at the request of the owners.
Thank you for that. Councilor Poling?
Have we looked at some of the other cities and the wording to the change in our ordinance and how it compares to some of the other cities?
We looked at other cities at the time that we did the original smoking ordinance. We did not look at other cities for this proposed ordinance because this ordinance was designed very specifically to deal with the library, community centers, other city-owned buildings that where primary purpose of which is to provide activities for children. We can certainly do that before you take action to see whether.
Yeah, I'd appreciate if you could just find out what other cities have an ordinance similar to this with these restrictions and just kind of a comparison.
We'll do that and put something in the AIS for when you're supposed to take action.
Thank you.
Councilor Clark?
Thank you. I'm going to go off topic too and say that if you're going to put something in writing for Councilor Ortiz to circle around on the issue of the first item, would you do that for me as well?
We would just send it to the entire council.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I don't see any further comments, so it appears we have a short hearing night tonight. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for coming and testifying tonight. Thank you.
It was a lot of fun.